Hey everybody, Donkey Storm here, and today we're going to do a Kyrian Resto Shaman Mythic Plus guide. Kyrian Resto is insanely good right now in Mythic Plus. It's got really strong healing throughput, great utility, and blasts the DPS meter on every pull. In fact, in my opinion, for 90% of Mythic Plus groups, Kyrian Resto Shaman is the best healer that you can have right now. So in this guide, we'll go over all the setup stuff. Covenants, Conduits, Legendaries, Soulbinds, and Talents, as well as look at some gameplay so you're pressing the right buttons in the right situations. And if you like what you see today, remember to like and subscribe to see more of my WoW content in the future. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so the title says it all. We're playing a Kyrian Resto Shaman here, so obviously Kyrian is going to be our Covenant of choice, and the reason we're going Kyrian is this ability, Vesper Totem. So what this does, it places a totem on the ground. The totem has 6 charges, 3 healing charges, 3 DPS charges. Every time you cast a healing spell while the totem is active, it consumes a healing charge, and it pulses an AoE heal. Every time you cast a damaging spell while the totem is active, it consumes a damage charge, and it pulses a damage ability. It's going to look something like this. So we'll drop it down. We'll use a heal. So there's the AoE heal. We'll use a damaging ability, and there's your damage. Okay, now we're going to buff this totem in several ways. The first way being our legendary choice, which is going to be the Kyrian class legendary. What this does is makes it so anytime any 3 charges of this totem are consumed, whether they be healing or damage or some combination of the two, the totem is going to pulse an additional burst of damage and healing on top of the original amount. This is also uncapped damage. Now we're going to further buff this totem by taking the Forgelight Prime Mechanico Soulbind. The final trait of the Soulbind is called Effusive Anima Accelerator, and what this does, in addition to making the Vesper Totem deal more damage split evenly between all targets, is that it reduces the cooldown of this by 4 seconds per enemy up to 5, so a maximum of 20 seconds cooldown taken off. An already short cooldown. This is a minute cooldown spell. So I'm just going to reset my details here real quick. And I want to see like what kind of damage I do with just Vesper Totem alone. So I'll drop my Vesper Totem in this group of 5 here. And we'll start consuming charges. So we'll do heal, heal, damage, damage, heal, damage. And look, I'm doing 9.3k DPS to these 5 mobs, just sitting here casually casting whatever. So this ability is incredible, and this is what is going to make Shaman so good in Mythic Plus situations. What's so good about it is the damage profile, is that it does lots of damage, and it doesn't really detract from the amount of healing that you're doing. It's more or less, it feels like free damage. It's fairly effortless. You don't need to stop healing to make this damage go out. So for that reason, we're choosing Kyrian. Now we also already talked about Legendary. We talked about the Soulbind Forgelight Prime Mechanicos, but let's dive into that a little bit more closely and look at what conduits we'll be using with him. So this is what our Forgelight Prime Mechanicos Soulbind is going to look like. We're going to start, of course, with Brawn, because who doesn't want a giant robot helping you out every now and then. We're going to head down to the left and put Elysian Dirge, which is going to buff your Vesper Totem's damage to the nearest target. Then we're going to move on to the Forge Light Filter, which is going to cause you to automatically use a Kyrian file once you hit 35% health. Nice little survivability buff there. We're going to move down to Totemic Surge, which is going to reduce the cooldown of some of your utility abilities. And then over here to Resilient Plumage, going to reduce some fall damage. At least it's something that can help you in a dungeon rather than the durability option over here. Okay, we're going to take Refreshing Waters for a Healing Surge to do more healing to yourself. And then we're moving down to a second Endurance Conduit here where we're going to take Vital Accretion, which makes your Earth Elemental increase your health pool. We're going to move down here to Hammer of Genesis, which gives you 3% haste for every new target you attack stacking 5 times, which is going to be better than any potency conduit we can get anyway. So we're going straight down the center, down to Swirling Currents, which causes your Cloudburst totem to buff your next 3 healing spells. We're going to be moving over here to Soul Glow Spectrometers, which are going to increase your damage done to a single target over time. We're going to throw down a Condensed Anima Sphere for a little bit of extra self-healing, and then we've already talked about Effusive Anima Accelerator to buff your Vesper totem damage and cooldown reduction. Alright, so let's talk about talents. I don't want to go through the entire talent tree in super in-depth, so I could just show this to you and say, copy these talents, they're not going to do you wrong. But just a quick summary, Undulation is going to make every third heal for more. Echo of Elements is going to add a second charge to Riptide, Cloudburst, and Lava Burst. Static Charge is an AoE stun. Ancestral Vigor actually adds to the health pool of the people that you're healing, which is a nice little perk. Nature's Guardian is going to be another quick little self-heal you'll get at 35% health. Great survivability. Cloudburst Totem is an interesting one. So Cloudburst Totem is an ability that you can drop, and then after it's been dropped, you can see I track mine on a weak aura here. Any healing that you do gets basically saved in this totem, and then when the totem expires, as mine's counting down here, 3, 2, 1, that 14k healing I did gets spread throughout my entire group. So the way that we're going to use this, we'll get into more when we cover the rotation section. Finally, we're going to take Ascendance. This adds another big healing cooldown to your kit. Basically, when you hit this ability, it's going to do a big AoE heal just to start. You turn into this cool water elemental guy, and then as you cast heals, it gets evenly distributed among all your allies. So this is a big AoE healing cooldown. So I feel pretty confident that you guys can stick to this talent tree, and you're going to be great in like 99% of situations. And then as you get used to the class, maybe you play around with some of the utility on the 3rd row, for example, or the 5th row, but for the most part, you're going to be pretty locked into this in Mythic Plus. Alright, so that's all the setup stuff. Now let's talk about how you play the class. First things first, you got a couple buffs that you're going to want to keep up pretty much all the time. The first is going to be Water Shield, which you're going to keep on yourself. This is going to help a lot with your mana regen. You want to make sure this, if this falls off, you're refreshing it, as you will notice the difference when it's not on you. Secondly, we want to keep our Earth Shield up on a friendly target. Generally, the tank, what Earth Shield does is it increases the amount of healing they take from your spells by 20%. It also heals them for a small amount when they take damage. So this is going to go on the tank 95% of the time, and then maybe if you've got some mechanic where some other player is going to need a ton of healing on them, you can toss this on them instead. But a good rule of thumb, if you're just starting out, keep Earth Shield on the tank, track it somewhere so you see when it falls off and you can refresh it. Beyond those buffs, your healing rotation is pretty simple. Your bread and butter spells are going to be Riptide, Healing Surge, and Cloudburst Totem. Riptide is a heal over time with 2 charges. Throw them out very liberally, because the more often you use them, the more charges you'll get over the course of a dungeon. It's a very nice heal over time. If somebody's not at 100% health, or just throw it on the tank, just keep those charges rolling. If you do that, Riptide will more than likely be your #1 heal done at the end of a dungeon when you check your details. Okay, beyond that, you've got Healing Surge. One mistake I see some shaman do is that they rely too heavily on Healing Wave. Healing Wave is more mana efficient, that's true, but it doesn't heal for as much, and it heals slower, and when I see people lean on this spell too much, they get behind in healing and they can't catch back up. Healing Surge is less mana efficient than Healing Wave, but you can spam this pretty hard and get away with it, and it's just a better spell. So don't go light on the Healing Surge. Again, by the end of the dungeon, on your details, 9 times out of 10, Healing Surge is going to be your second overall heal, and it's going to be very close to being #1. And then finally, you've got Cloudburst. So the easiest way to use Cloudburst, if you're just getting used to this class, is if there are people in your group that are taking damage, drop Cloudburst Totem down, and then just heal like you always would. And then when the Cloudburst Totem runs out, you'll see, oh my gosh, I get this big extra burst of healing at the end. Now, once you get more comfortable with Cloudburst, you'll start to realize that there are times when you want to activate the ability a second time to get that burst of healing sooner. Like, you're not able to keep up with the AoE damage, you need that burst now. You can hit Cloudburst the second time, so we're activating a second one here. We'll get some healing pumped into that, and then we'll activate it early. Okay? Pops whenever you need it to. But generally, it's a good idea if you're in combat and people are taking damage, just throw them down. Look, I've used 2 charges. It's already back. This ability is essentially always up when you're taking the talent that gives you 2 charges. So don't hold on to this one. Just use it if people are taking damage. And you'll see, again, on your details at the end of the dungeon, Cloudburst is going to be more than likely your 3rd overall heal done. So people ask about things like Healing Rain, Chain Heal, because in raids you use these a lot more often. In 5-mans they don't have as much of a place. Healing Rain can be really nice if you know that your whole group is going to be stacked up in one place taking damage, like in the second phase of the last boss of Halls of Atonement, for example, when everybody stacks up and soaks the beams. That could be a time that you could cast Healing Rain before that goes out, but you just don't get a ton of value from it. Chain Heal too is just not as impactful in 5-man content. If you need to maybe top some people off or something, you could throw one out here and there, but generally you're sticking to Riptide, Healing Surge, and Cloudburst. Your Vesper Totem's going to do a little bit of work too. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about healing cooldowns. You basically have 2 big ones. The first is going to be Spirit Link Totem. When you drop this down, everybody inside the radius takes 10% decreased damage, and it also just evenly distributes the health of everybody inside. So this is a great healing cooldown. It's almost impossible for someone to die while inside Spirit Link Totem. So you can use this in a couple ways. You can use it to stabilize when health bars are jumping up and down, lots of AoE damage is going out, maybe some people are getting low, some people are a little bit higher. You can throw down your Spirit Link Totem and everybody stabilizes at one particular place. That's one way to use it. Another way that you can use it is in a case where maybe you have one person like your tank getting dangerously low and you need to jump them up right now. You throw that down with a couple other people inside the totem, your health the health of your tank will jump up, the health of some other people will lower, but it will basically stabilize the situation. So Spirit Link is really good at just like bringing a really nasty situation to safety. This is on a 3-minute cooldown. Then on the other hand, we've got Ascendance, which we talked about a little bit. This is a big AoE heal cooldown. It does a big burst when you cast it. And then as you cast your heals beyond that, that healing also gets distributed across your group. So this is great in situations where there's a lot of AoE damage going out, people are getting low. This is also on a 3-minute cooldown. So if you think about it, when you have 2 big cooldowns that are both on 3-minute CDs, you could kind of use one or the other essentially every pull. You could use either a Spirit Link or a Ascendancy unless the pulls are going super, super fast. And you really should try to get uses out of your cooldowns as often as possible. I feel like a lot of people heal with this attitude that they need to save their cooldowns for these big emergencies. That's really not the way you want to do it. It's a lot better to just get uses out of them. If I get to use, I don't know, 6, 7 Ascendancies over the course of a dungeon, I know I got value out of that. I know that I, kept the health bars up with that. So don't sit on your cooldowns for too long. Just use them. All right, next up you've got your utility, and boy, as Shaman, do we have a lot of them. So let's go through each one by one just quickly. You got Astral Shift is your major personal defensive on a 1.5 minute cooldown, 40% decreased damage taken. You've got Bloodlust. Obviously, this is a huge deal. This is something people plan their dungeon routes around, increasing haste by 30% for 40 seconds. So this is generally something in a group that you're going to want to know when your group wants a Bloodlust ahead of time. You don't want to be just randomly throwing this out, obviously. You want to have a plan of when this gets used. And in most dungeons, there's sort of a set spot where Bloodlust gets used. But Bloodlust alone, the importance of Bloodlust is going to get you invited to groups that otherwise don't have it. You've got your Capacitor Totem, so this is going to drop a totem on a selected place on the ground, and then after a quick second or so, it's going to do an AoE stun to everything around it. CC is awesome, especially AoE CC. You can use this to help peel for your tank. You can use this to disrupt dangerous abilities, interrupt casts. It is a little bit tricky to time because it doesn't go off instantly. You got to get used to that little delay before it goes off. But still, we're talenting into it. We want to make sure that we're getting use out of that. We got our Earth Elemental. So Earth Elemental is a great spell. What this guy does is he goes and fights things for you, and he takes aggro off of your tank. So you can use this to help your tank out of nasty situations. Maybe they're trying to reset their necrotic stacks. Maybe they're getting dangerously low. Maybe they're dead and you need something to tank for your group. This guy does that for you. And then you also need to remember you're using that conduit where your Earth Elemental increases your health pool. So in a pinch, you can even use this guy as a personal defensive. You've got Earthbind Totem, which puts a totem on the ground with a certain radius that slows everything in it. This is useful to help your tank kite, slow down things like Spiteful or anything that's going too fast for your liking. You've got Ghost Wolf, so excellent mobility that happens instantly and usable pretty much anywhere. You've got a CC and Hex. You've got Purge, so an offensive dispel. This has many uses in Mythic Pluses where mobs get some kind of buff that needs to be removed. So that's great. You got Tremor Totem, which removes Fear, Charm, and Sleep effects. One thing that instantly comes to mind is Ingram Malik, the first boss of Miss Satirna Scythe. You drop this down, you avoid the fear that goes out, and you can start that burn phase that much faster. You got Water Walking, because who wouldn't want that? And then, oh man, Wind Shear, saving the best for last here. It is so nice to have a kick as a healer. It's like being able to solve all your own problems, because what do healers hate more than nasty casts going out? Well, now as a shaman, you can take care of that problem yourself, and you should. This is on a 12-second cooldown, so this is one of the faster kicks around. I mean, you could potentially be like top kick in your entire group. You can prevent so much damage with this, so do make sure that you use it. And then of course Reincarnation. After you die, you have the ability to come back to life every 30 minutes. Make sure you use this wisely. I see a lot of shaman die and they just hit that Reincarnation button just because it's up. Not necessarily a good idea. You're going to want to hold on to this to a place where you get some real value out of it. If your group can wait and res you and you can hold on to this, that's definitely recommended. So Shaman have a ton of utility. Put these buttons on your bars, hotkey them, use them. It will make you a better healer. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about damage, because that is why we're going Kyrian after all, right? Shaman do some really nice damage, and what's great about it is, unlike Holy Paladin, for example, you just throw this stuff out on every single pull. You don't have to play around it, hardly at all. So, approaching, any pack of mobs, we're probably going to start throwing that Vesper Totem down, getting a Flame Shock rolling. Flame Shock is like your easiest baseline damaging ability. If you're not casting any damage spells, start with Flame Shock, because what it does is the more of these that you get out, you can see I got one there, it gives you Lava Burst procs, another instant cast, so one global cooldown, for that ability. So if you're on a pull where, you know, there's a lot of intense healing and you're like, oh man, I want my Vesper Totem to go off, but it's just so hard to squeeze in damaging abilities, just spread some Flame Shocks around, use your Lava Burst procs. You'll proc your Vesper Totem, your damage will look good. Okay, now if we're on a pull where maybe you've got even more room for activities than that, we can start to throw in some other damaging abilities too. So on single target, we can throw in Lightning Bolts to fill, and on AoE, we can throw in Chain Lightning to fill. So that's pretty much going to be your damaging rotation. The main thing is get that Vesper Totem out and use those charges. So, you know, use your 3 heals, which shouldn't be a problem. You are a healer after all. Make sure you're getting some kind of damaging abilities out to make sure that that totem gets full value. So 3 healing charges, 3 damage charges, and then based on the severity of the pull, maybe you're just flame shocking and lava bursting. Maybe you've got the space to do some chain lightnings and lightning bolt. But either way, Shaman does some great DPS. Make sure that you're helping your group out and taking advantage of that. Alright, and that's going to do it for our Kyrian Resto Shaman guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video and shoot me a subscription so you can see more of my content in the future. And feel free to drop a comment if you enjoyed this video or if you felt I left something out. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.